According to the last available data from the CDC, 560 Oklahomans died from pneumonia in 2021, making it one of the top 10 causes of death in our state. Now, a researcher at OU Medical is conducting clinical trials on a new vaccine that can hopefully reduce those numbers. Joe Filomeno has that story for us and joins us now. Joel.
Rich, the death rate for pneumonia in Oklahoma ranks 9th in the country. I spoke with health experts both locally and nationally to learn more about the development of a new and more affordable vaccine.
Yeah, I want to see that data. That's going to be interesting.
Dr. Rod Tweeten spends his workday teaching and experimenting at a lab inside George Lane Cross Hall on the Oklahoma City OU campus.
We've been working on how bacterial toxins work, how they function, and we've been mainly concerned with a class of toxins that are called pore-forming toxins. We just basically work at the molecular level trying to understand how these guys do what they do.
He believes pore-forming toxins can help unlock the mystery to developing a new and more efficient vaccine to fight pneumonia.
One night I woke up and I said, I think it's this. And so I went in the next day, grabbed an enzyme and threw it in with these toxins, and suddenly now they're working.
The vaccine is specifically designed to combat the bacteria responsible for causing pneumonia.
Well, we realized how we can re-engineer this particular toxin that's produced by Streptococcus pneumoniae, which causes pneumonia and is responsible for about 1.2 million deaths every year, 300,000 of them children.
¿Sientes tú que ya se acabó la vida para uno?
Jose Antonio survived his battle with pneumonia after contracting the illness in Guadalajara, Mexico, but just barely.
Fue grave.
It was severe, serious because we were, if I could say it, on the verge of death. If I'm talking to you about the first week, at that given moment, well, I thought it was a simple flu.
La primera semana, en un momento dado, pues creíamos que era una simple gripe.
He says breathing was the biggest and most painful part of his experience. You feel that you are in your last days, your last moments, and when you're short of breath is when it scares you the most. Antonio says his blood clotting added to his struggle against the respiratory infection. There was a time when they had to inject me with an injection around my navel every day for about the entire week. So that was where the second week was very complicated because the entire chest, my body, and all the symptoms I had within. After able to get his breathing back to normal levels, Antonio says he was recovering by the third week. The oxygen was in the middle of the first week. The second week was more complicated, and the third week, at a certain point, it seemed that that one was recovering. Dr. Tweeten hopes a new vaccine currently being studied in clinical trials will make that recovery time shorter and less intensive. The new vaccine is being produced in conjunction with the company called Matrivax, located in Boston, Massachusetts.
We still have over 500,000 cases of pneumonia in the U.S., 25,000 deaths, thereabouts. But worldwide, again, because it's difficult to disseminate these vaccines, and like I said, because of the cost and complexity.
Kevin Killeen is the chief scientific officer for Matrivax.
Now we are really putting all our eggs in the basket of making a really rather different, technologically different pneumococcal vaccine candidate. That's in clinical development.
Matrivax saw Dr. Tweeten's work on forming toxins and partnered with his team to develop the vaccine.
And we saw it as a very important protective antigen that very much overlooked by big pharma and vaccine companies and the like.
Dr. Tweeten says that the traditional pneumonia vaccines are limited by how many variants they cover.
There are over 90 different variations of this sugar coating, if you will. And the current vaccines basically they have to grow up these bacteria, purify the sugar coating from, right now, 23 different variants.
An additional benefit, Dr. Tweeten's vaccine will cost less to produce and distribute.
If you can have one antigen as a vaccine, and to cover most of them is going to be a lot cheaper to make.
He says high costs in developing and shipping traditional pneumonia vaccines has negative consequences globally.
Especially kids in developing countries that come down with pneumonia and die from it. they don't have access to the vaccine, probably mostly due to economic.
Dr. Tweeten says that they expect to know the results from phase 1 trials in December.
What they're looking for is no adverse effects as a result of just administering this to individuals, and also to look at how good of an immune response it triggers against this toxin.
Colleen believes that if the trials go well, they can incorporate their technology to help produce the next generation of COVID-19 vaccines.
Our technology, because it's a protein, could be readily adaptable to an mRNA vaccine as well.
Jose Antonio says he thinks that a new, more affordable vaccine would help a wider spectrum of people.
Lo más seguro es que van a ser muy benéficas.
The most certain thing is that they will be very beneficial for everyone, because I believe that everyone needed it. Those who are in poverty can be the most affected at a given time, amongst the many others affected.
The power of protection is a wonderful thing. It's better than when people start getting sick and having to treat them, because then there's a lot more openings for the pathogen to do harm.
The next step to approve Dr. Tweeten's pneumonia vaccines are human trial results and findings from phase 1, and they are expected in December. Rich.
Very good. Thank you, Joel.